From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, security gang. Welcome to another episode of the CyberHub Podcast. It's great to have everyone here with us this morning. Thank you so much for tuning in. Obviously, not in my natural environment, not in my studio. I know, awkward, weird. I had to travel and finishing touches on the studio. So when I get back to the studio in about a week and a half or so, it'll be brand spanking new. So like new in all aspects. So very, very exciting. Finishing up the last of our new studio. So really excited about that. So we've got a packed show today. Obviously, if you've been living under our rock, you've missed a slew of massive data breaches that we'll be talking about today, as well as some other really important items that cybersecurity practitioners should be paying attention to this morning. Now, because I traveled, I got here really late yesterday. I was not able to find my traditional coffee cup cheers, meaning my espresso. So with that being said, I will wish y'all a coffee cup cheers. Let's get the show going. But before we do that, make sure to subscribe, follow, share, like, and all the latest. It's been a crazy weekend. So let's go ahead and get the ball rolling here. Coffee cup cheers, y'all. So let's go ahead and kick off with this AT&T data breach that occurred over the weekend. Now, the reason this AT&T breach is big, one, it's because of the severity of the breach to begin with, right? 110 million people, not as big as Equifax, not as big as Marriott in terms of numbers, but in terms of privacy information, it's very significant. Here's what's going on. So this is AT&T apparently is a Snowflake customer, like many organizations are. Again, no reflection on Snowflake. Snowflake was not breached here. Customers of Snowflake's environments were breached partially due to Snowflake policy. So Snowflake does bear some responsibility here, not all of it, but some of it. On Friday, AT&T said all of their wireless subscribers were exposed in a massive breach that occurred between April 14th and April 25th of this year, where hackers criminals really exfiltrated files containing records of customers' calls and text interactions between May 1st of 2022 to October 31st of 2022, as well as on January 2nd, 2023. In their SEC filing, they say that the stolen data does not contain the contents of the caller text or personal information like social security numbers, date of birth, or other personally identifiable information. The current analysis of that the data includes for these periods of time is records of calls and texts of nearly all AT&T's wireless customers and customers of mobile virtual networks, MVNOs, using AT&T's wireless network, which is a whole lot. So when you think of a lot of these, like, pop-up wireless shops, a lot of them have a roaming agreement with AT&T, and so that's what they mean by mobile virtual network operators. These records identify the telephone numbers with which an AT&T or MVNO wireless number interacted during this periods, including telephone numbers of AT&T wireline customers and customers of other carriers. Counts of those interactions and an aggregate call duration for a day or a month. For a subset of records, one or more of the cell site identification numbers were also included. The company also explained that while the data does not include customer names, that information is pretty easy to identify using just a simple public search, all true. While it did report the incident to the SEC, AT&T claims the incident has had no material impact on AT&T's operations, and AT&T doesn't believe that this incident is reasonably likely to materially impact AT&T's financial conditions or results of operation. Roughly 115 million customers were impacted by this. And again, this goes to the massive part of this. And here's the real, kind of breakdown of this AT&T breach, right? So it really falls into the category of, why were you storing this data in Snowflake? Number one. So typically, just so you know, AT&T wireless, AT&T, they have to store specific call information because as a user, you may be required to get it. There's regulatory requirements to it as well, but it's typically stored in your billing system, not a Snowflake database. Specifically meaning that typically all these call records are part of whoever you're using for your billing system. So most wireless companies use, there's really two big major billing providers in the planet um, that do this kind of work. One of them being Amdocs. And so, for example, all of this data would have been stored in Amdocs and would have been made available to the customer through the Amdocs environment. So why was that data in Snowflake to begin with? And it's weird because it's a data from a specific subset of dates and not necessarily all of that, or it could be that's what the criminals got their hands on, but there's a whole story of data there that beyond those dates. That could also be a possibility. Number two, you're stalling call records, call durations. Um, what's the business case for it? That's something that they don't explain here, and I don't believe them saying this isn't going to have a material impact on the company. I've over the weekend, I was at the synagogue Saturday morning. Everyone who was an AT&T customer was like, "What do you think we should do?" And I was like, "Well, personally, your information's out there, but I'll probably switch." And there's only one carrier that really, knock on wood, hasn't really been impacted by multiple data breaches, and that's Verizon. So, you know, give that a consideration because T-Mobile's been breached 5 times in 2 years, and AT&T's had their fair share of cybersecurity incidents, and Verizon thus far has held steady in terms of their security posture. Not to say that they will. At some point, they will fall victim. Everyone does. That's just part of cybersecurity. You're never 100% accurate, but come on. I mean, realistically, this is what we're doing here. So AT&T for their end, say it won't have a material breach. I disagree. I think there will be material financial breach. I think their churn rate will be higher. Watch the next quarter, right? Watch the results of Q3, which we just started. We'll go back to this in October, November when they release their Q3 results and take a look at it. And then I'll either be proven right or wrong. So there's that. But this is a drove of information. I mean, and the bottom line here is if you're a former Intel individual, if you're into espionage, intelligence, and so forth, this data is significant. So it's significant in a whole slew of ways. You can tell who's talking to who and for how long. You can tell who's texting who and what's going on. You can tell the dates. You can tell the durations. You can tell so much of it. With the cell phone tower, you can actually also tell location. And so this is a nightmare. And it's a nightmare for AT&T customers who may hold dear their call privacy, which many people do, not because they're doing anything wrong, but because you may not want the whole world to know who you're speaking with all the time. And very legit and very, very, very realistic. So AT&T for their end will have to deal with the cost of this, and this will have financial impact on AT&T. I don't believe it will. Advanced Auto Parts is notifying 2.3 million individuals that their PII was compromised as part of the Snowflake incident as well. Starting mid-April, the attackers accessed Snowflake accounts that lacked MFA protection and network allow list and attempted to extort the victims. On July 10th, Advanced Auto Parts disclosed to the Maine Attorney General's office that personal information of 2,316,591 individuals was stolen from its Snowflake account, and it started sending data breach notification. The compromised PII includes names, dates of birth, social security numbers, driver's license number, and other government-issued identification number. So again, same time frame as AT&T, although this one went to May 24th, likely because AT&T has a more robust cybersecurity team than Advanced Auto Parts does. They're offering 12 months of free credit monitoring, and they'll be joining the list of additional victims there as well. Snowflake has established a new security policy that will now give company administrators the ability to require MFA for all users or specific roles. This, according to their CISO, Brad Jones, in a letter he sent to customers early last week. The change comes nearly 3 months after, but here's the thing. You can actually skip it. You can skip enrolling in MFA, and it'll remind you in 3 days. Have we learned nothing? The fact that this wasn't a feature on Snowflake to begin with is just bad policy. But the fact that now they're saying, hey, we're finally giving you control. Okay, great. Now we know. But now everyone knows. So there's that. I mean, come on. Be better. Be better. More telecom breaches, though. SFR, the prominent telecom company based in France, has fallen victim to a cyber attack as well. The breach was allegedly orchestrated on July 12th of this year and was attributed to an attacker known as Kev Adams, who claims to have infiltrated and compromised 1.4 million landline users' data of the company. SFR is France's third largest telecom provider. According to the company, they were founded in 1987. Their head office is in Paris. And in 2021, it was categorized as a large company, which has over 5,000 employees. On breach forums, threat actor Kev Adams claims to have exfiltrated the database containing 1,445,683 million records that allegedly compromised sensitive PII of customers. To substantiate the data, he says the threat actor attached sample records with the latest timestamp of July 2024, which included the first name, last name, phone number, address, latitude, longitude, subscriber, and red list data of customers in order to authenticate the fact that he's done this. This is an ongoing story, obviously, so we'll keep a close eye as to how this breach happened as more information becomes available. And again, GDPR, so we'll get a whole lot more information there. Rite is also confirming a data breach after suffering a cyber attack in June of this year. That one was claimed by the RansomHub ransomware operation. Rite, the third largest drugstore chain in the United States, has over 6,000 pharmacists and 1,700 retail pharmacy locations across 16 states. The company said it's investigating a cyber attack detected in June, working on sending breach notification to impacted customers. The attack was claimed by the RansomHub with a timer to expose the data as they try to blackmail the team over at Rite. Threat actors are quick to weaponize proof of concept exploits and actual attacks, sometimes as quickly as 22 minutes after exploits are made publicly available. According to the Cloudflare Application Security Report for 2024, which covers activity between May of 2023 and March of 2024 and highlights emerging threat trends, Cloudflare processes an average of 57 million HTTP requests per second, continues to see high-end scanning activity and disclosed CVEs, followed by command injections and attempts to weaponize available POCs. During the examined time period, the most targeted flaws were CVE 2023-50164338901 in the Apache products, and CVE 2023-2902-908 and 38203 and 26360 in Cloud Fusion, and Mobile Iron CVE 2023-35082. All of these were used as those 22 minutes. That's the time frame, right? So when you think of your vulnerability management and patch management, it's great that you say 24 hours, 7 days, 14 days, 30 days, 22 minutes. That's the reality. 22 minutes from a moment of proof of exploit is available to when they start taking advantage of it. 22 minutes. That's all you've got. If that's not part of your discussion with your peers in the company today, as a security leader, you got to ask yourself a question. Why? This isn't FUD. This is an actual report. I would send this report to people on my team. I would send it to my peers in the company, and I would say, we need to address this. And we don't need to patch in 22 minutes, but we need to have a better plan than 24 hours. We do. All right. Microsoft, for their end, are saying that regression does not impact any of their environments. They're saying that the flaw really impacted others, but not Microsoft. So there's that as well. And finally, the Indiana County is filing a disaster declaration following a ransomware attack. This one is Clay County in Indiana filing a local disaster declaration following a ransomware attack that resulted in an inability to provide critical services required for daily operations of the Clay County Courthouse, Community Corrections, and Clay County Probation. The declaration allows county officials to marshal financial resources to the department affected and take immediate action. Clay County is home to 25,000 people in southern Indiana, and they've fallen victims to a ransomware attack. That's it for our show this morning. We'll be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern, with all the latest and greatest. Go check that out. If you missed Friday's episode with Steve Oren, the Intel CTO at Intel, the CTO at Intel Federal, go check that out. Definitely worthwhile conversation. We talk a whole lot about AI. That'll be in the end credits here on YouTube. Thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your day. And most importantly, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.